this video we're going to take a very quick look at the event module. This is something which people can use to subscribe to events and have associated actions take place when that event occurs. You can see here on the right hand side there is a list of events that you can choose from, and from that you can run certain commands, and the list is fairly extensive. Add window, focus change, de-iconify, they're the usual ones that most people use because it's quite handy to have certain things run when those events occur. This is the man page for FvwmEvent. By all means have a look at it, it is quite interesting. I recently added this table to try and make it clear which events you can actually subscribe to. Not all of them are necessarily going to be useful. Some of them are used just for module communication, such as when it's receiving configuration or requesting certain things from the window manager itself. On the right hand side here you'll notice that there's three windows. It's this middle one here that I'm going to talk about. I've recently started to add some visualization to indicate which desk or page I'm on, because I've got three monitors here and sometimes it's very difficult to keep track at a glance at least which windows are where, so I've tried to add this in as a visual reminder. This button bar here actually indicates the specific page I'm on for that particular desk. Now, to do that, I had to use the event module so that I could tell Fvwm to style these buttons accordingly. And it's this configuration that I'll talk through now. So in order to achieve that, I first of all had to set a desktop size, which I've done, 2x2 in this case. I've also set edge scroll, which allows me to pan around the virtual desktop with the mouse, and I'll show that in just a second. I then got some color sets which define the theme, in this case sort of purple and pink, and then I've got some pages and I've got a configuration for each monitor. In this particular case it's FP1 that we're interested in. This just sets up the pager in this configuration here, and it's not much of interest there, it's a repetitive thing. So I set the configuration here, I kill off any pager that might be there if this configuration file is read in, so that we don't have a doubling up effect of the same thing. And I then wrap the pager inside an Fvwm buttons configuration, just because I may well decide to expand that in the future, so it's a little easier for me to already have that in place. So this is the configuration that sets up this button bar here. To be able to selectively apply a action, in this case a change of color set to that button, you have to give it an ID, and that ID must start with an alphanumeric character. In this case I chose A. We have a title which is static, and there's an action that takes place if I were to click that button. In this case it's going to the specific page on a specific monitor, in this case current, and this cryptic syntax is the particular coordinates of that page, because it's mapped using almost Cartesian-like values. The reason why I've got $4 signs there is to stop Fvwm from expanding that string too early, because otherwise it could very well end up with the wrong monitor depending on where this particular button bar is placed. And so the event side of things happens here. So we destroy our module configuration for the event, so we clear down the decks basically. And then we do two things as part of the event. We tell it that the command that we're going to run is a function. Now that's actually the default action, so I don't technically need to specify that, but I have done. And then the line below it, if I just turn on line numbers, be a bit easier. On line 109, I say that there's a new page event that I wish to subscribe to, and for the page button function to run. Now this page button does the following. It keeps track of when this particular function has been called. The reason for that is you can get multiple events sent sometimes, so I really did want to make sure that I was only doing this once. And if we are in the middle of having done it, then we'll break. And then this centering module is really the sort of key to the whole thing. So when I change pages, I reset the color of all of those buttons to be purple, and then on line 125, the actual button for the particular page that I'm on after I've moved to that page is then set to this sort of pink color. So for example, you can see here that I'm on desk 0, and whoops, if I move between pages, you'll note that this button bar down here indicates which page I'm on. You might wonder, why is that useful when I've already got the pager telling me? Well, the reason for that is if I have quite a few windows open, it's not always possible to really tell because the pink highlight there doesn't always show through. So this is a much better indicator. Also, it means that as I click here, I know instantly which page I'm on, but also which page I want to go to. Likewise, if I move the mouse to the bottom, we'll go down, move the mouse to the side here, go across, up and back. And that's all reacting to the new page event, whether I'm using the mouse to pan around, whether I'm clicking inside the pager, or indeed if I'm clicking these buttons here. So the event module is really quite useful. There is a ton of different events that you can subscribe to, as I indicated earlier. Do have a look at it. It does allow for some quite interesting scripting to take place. You're not just limited to built-in Fvwm commands. If you wanted to have an external script that gets called, perhaps you wanted, for instance, to use libnotify to pop a message up, you can do that. You can call external commands. You can use the pipe read command to actually shell out to a shell to actually do some further computation there. It is quite powerful. But this is just a very quick and brief look at something which I've done with it, which I think is quite useful.